want to tell you something about Atlanta, Rob, and it's really important for people to know. Atlanta has some of the highest crime in the country. Yeah. Murder, rape, carjacking. And the state of Georgia is one of the worst states in the country for child sex trafficking. Jima last week with Homeland actually told me that every single month in the state of Georgia, every month, men will buy a child for sex on average 7,200 times. Fani Willis should be going after child sex predators and traffickers. Fani Willis should be going after murderers, rapists.
You know the heat is on Donald Trump's ass when his defenders like Marjorie Taylor Greene are talking crime to keep everyone else from paying attention to the laundry list of charges that he's facing. She said Fani Willis should be going after child sex predators, traffickers, murderers, and rapists, not Donald Trump. So who's going to tell her?
On July 19th, 2023, federal judge Lewis Kaplan rejected Donald Trump's request for a new trial and confirmed that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll. I'm going to submit this court ruling into the congressional record. The judge wrote, Ms. Carroll testified that the sexual assault, the rape, of which she accused Mr. Trump involved especially painful, forced digital penetration. The judge further writes, the testimony of the outcry witnesses, Ms. Birnbach and Ms. Martin, corroborated the essence of Ms. Carroll's account of a violent, traumatic sexual assault. On page 44, the judge wrote, the jury's finding of sexual abuse therefore necessarily implies that it found that Mr. Trump forcibly penetrated her vagina. The judge further writes, in other words, that he raped her.
It's the standard playbook for MAGA Republicans. Take the facts and turn them 180 degrees on their head and watch supporters bathe in that alternative reality. And don't forget, Trump's senior counsel, Kellyanne Conway, set that standard early on during his administration, and they've never looked back.
Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Wait a minute. Alternative facts? Alternative facts. Look, alternative facts are not facts. They're falsehoods.
Nearly 7 years later, the alternative facts continue to flow from MAGA, and Marjorie's attempt to discredit Fani Willis by reeling off some facts on crime are no different. The worst part is that these are the same talking points that Trump threw against a couple of walls before he turned himself in and took that scowling mugshot that he'd been practicing in the mirror for weeks. He said, Fani Willis, who was overseeing one of the greatest murder and violent crime disasters in American history. He also said, why is there so much murder in Atlanta? Why is there so much violent crime? People are afraid to go outside to buy a loaf of bread. One big reason is that failed district attorney, Fani Willis. He also went on to say, highly partisan DA of Fulton County, Fani Willis, who has allowed murder and other violent crime to massively escalate. Crime in Atlanta is the worst in the nation. Okay, fine. Here are the facts from Daniel Dale at CNN. All of these Trump claims are inaccurate. Atlanta is nowhere near record levels of either murder or violent crime, and it's misleading at best to suggest that Atlanta has a, quote, giant murder wave, or claim that Willis has allowed murder or violent crime to, quote, massively escalate. Atlanta Police Department statistics through Saturday show that the number of murders in the city is down 25% so far this year compared to last year, and that this year's number is also down about 12% from roughly the same point in 2020, the year before Fani Willis took office. Violent crime is also down sharply this year. Trump has even gone as far as criticizing Republican Governor Brian Kemp for not finding anything to impeach Fani Willis over, because there's nothing to impeach her over.
In the General Assembly, and echoed outside of these walls by the former president for a special session that would ignore current Georgia law and directly interfere with the proceedings of a separate but equal branch of government. Up to this point, I have not seen any evidence that D.A. Willis's actions or lack thereof warrant action by the prosecuting attorney oversight commission.
When evidence keeps derailing Donald Trump's claims of innocence and a lack of evidence keeps derailing his claims of a witch hunt, all that's left is to call for what any violent movement would call for: his foot soldiers to threaten and possibly attack the prosecutors that are doing their jobs. But that isn't working on the Fulton County DA either.
In this job, and women in general standing into these positions, to threaten me is a waste of time. It's a complete waste of their time. And it's not going to get anyone results, and I don't care if it's a member of Congress, I don't care if it's a local, someone in the community. One thing that people learn about me is I'm equal opportunity prosecutor. So if you come into this community and you violate the law, you're going to be held accountable. And some people have, taken exception to you could be rich or popular or famous. That does not give you the right to hurt people.
People don't have any concept of the level of threats and hatred that are directed at your way. You were sharing your ex-husband, you all hadn't been together in 18 years. People showed up on his doorstep trying to intimidate you, your 80-year-old father's doorstep.
Right. No, it's been very troubling. I've become very private about my family because of the threats. I have 20-year-olds. They've doxed them. They've doxed my father. It's very unfair to the other people, and it's a waste of time. It's not going to stop anything that I'm doing.